for. All right, that's the screen I'm looking for. Hopefully everyone can hear me. We don't really have anyone on right now, but if you can, when you jump in, let me know if you can hear my volume. And then Keen, it looks like I heard some noise. The Seagull's working.
I yeah. I
I'm
was
taking
gonna say I had the stream on and I could hear you. So
Perfect. Then we are
yeah.
good to go, and it is excellent. Probably one of the better things that have happened in the week. It's been a long week. There's been a lot going on, both within SCU, within SCUL, and then also just life in general, right? So been a long week. Let's go over a little bit about the previous week. I want to look forward towards the end of this second week of finals and kind of discuss my expectations. We didn't really go through a full prediction, but we can go through the rest of the predictions for the series that are still up for that. And then after that, I want to take a look at. Let me double check the notes here real quick. I want to take a look at the marbles. This is something that I keep intending to do whenever we do this, but I always forget, is to actually publicly lay out the marbles for the maps that are going to be played the next week. So the past two, it was really uneventful. It just kind of published the maps along with the matchups, and we moved forward from there. And then after that, I want to talk a little bit about player actions and a reminder on contracts as we move towards the off-season time, as captains are already kind of revving up when it comes to grandfathering people in, gathering resignations, stuff along those lines. And then talk a little bit, follow up on our previous discussion about Lise stepping down as captain of Team Unhinged. But before we get into all of that, I just wanted to thank everyone that has been following, that has been providing Prime subs, and even those extremely generous individuals that have been providing donations. It's been absolutely huge. The money tournaments are continuing to go for our level 3 players, and as that grows, we're only more certain to attract higher talent and get them included in the SCU community and in the SCUL league. So very excited about that and what this support so far is going to generate for season 2 and beyond. So with that, I want to take us over, change screens here real quick, and I want to look at the results from last week a little bit. We kind of went through already on that, but just double check or look at the previous week and compare that to what we're seeing this week with the two teams that are playing. So let me go ahead and I'm trying to get the zoom all squared away before I move us all over to the next sheet. Let's bring it up on the big screen. Boom! There we go. And it's right in front of like my face, your face. Let's see if I
Hmm.
can't zoom in a little bit more. Here, we'll do something like that. So just to refresh everyone's um, memory when it came to week 1, we had Chaos versus Unhinged. Chaos just grabbing the number 3 seed, facing Unhinged in a rematch after the round robin. And correct me if I'm wrong, did we already go through the full week uh, conclusion on this?
Yeah, we covered it, I believe.
Okay, so we already did cover it. It was a nail biter. It came down to a 10-9 finish. There were some forfeits. There was some controversy surrounding the forfeits. There was a lot of lessons learned that came out
Mm.
of this week. But Chaos scraped by getting that 10-9 victory. A lot of drama, and Unhinged is now out of the finals contention. So that brings us to this current week. So this current week, we have Legion, who is the number 2 seed, sitting and waiting for the victor between Chaos and Unhinged to make it up the ladder and face off against their team. And I gotta say, um, when I saw these lineups get published, I thought that it was going to be a very, very close week. I thought that we were going to have a very neck and neck score. But as you can see, we've already had 7 games or 7 series be played, and Legion is already up ahead 8-1. And so I do want to get your thoughts on that, Keen. Looking at these, but I also want to go through and predict what we think is going to happen on the series that have not been played yet. Because even though Legion is already up 8-1, because of the sequential scoring and only one of the series being a best of 3 that's been completed, Chaos still has a chance in this week to beat out Legion and go up and face Savage. So I'll hand it over to you. What are your initial thoughts or takes, or have you been paying much attention to this scoreboard up until now?
Um, I have not. I just today before the show I was checking it out. Um, I'm pretty surprised that the decider matches are so one-sided. But looking again at the best of three matches, honestly, I think we kind of see like the disparity in the two teams' like strongest lineups. I mean, I would out of all of the best of three players on Chaos, the only one I would have said is like probably a favorite is Radley against Yakub. But even with that said, Yakub has beaten Radley in a best of three recently, and so I feel like it might just be a clean sweep for for Legion. Honestly, like just very solid players all around. Yakub, Father, Semi, Pandora, Tom, they're all really good players. Um, Father already taking Europe down 2-1. That was maybe like another one of the closest matches. Jedi 1 is very talented, but Pandora is just a complete beast. So I would say Pandora is going to come out on top. And no offense to Kill Ace and Fire Tip, but I think Semi and Tom, respectively, are just a level above them.
They are very, very strong. I do want to take us back in time real briefly because in trying to like snapshot this in our mind, I want to look at the round robin from when these two teams played before, and just a reminder on how it kind of panned out, right? So when they met back in week 2 of the round robin, we have it right here. I'm not seeing a lot of matchups that are exactly the same, but we can kind of gather some information from this. First thing first, we saw Legion take down Chaos, 17 map wins to 7. That's pretty big. It's probably one of the biggest disparities that we saw in score. So Legion seems to have the matchups and the players that face off very well against Chaos's players, but we also don't have a lot of matchups that are repeats, except for what you were mentioning, Yakub versus Radley. This we're seeing again, and we saw during that round robin a 2-1 victory going to Yakub, which is kind of what you were saying, right? Like we've seen them face off. Radley has a very strong chance against Yakub, but so far in this season, we've seen Yakub come ahead before, so it's definitely possible. Other players I'm keeping an eye on. Firetip, he did win against Ed, Ed and Eddie. He has a different opponent this time. Quim versus Tom. Quim, obviously a strong player, but Tom, as we were mentioning, also bringing a lot of skill to the table, and we'll see how that kind of matches up back here in the finals bracket. So if I bring us back, right, I kind of want to go through and just rattle off some predictions. And so if we were to put numbers on this, I'm curious to see if Legion is going to sweep from your predictions, or if Chaos has a chance to extend the score to require these decider matches to come into their favor. Because I think even if, let's say, hypothetically, like let's play the what would it take Chaos to win this week? All right, so if they won all of the best of 3, in addition to the one map that they already won, that would bring them to 9 points. And they would need at least one of these decider matches to finish the deal. And not just one, but they would need it to not be the last one. Because 2 more here, well, actually, I'd have to check the math on that. But bottom line, there's still a chance. And so I want to see if your predictions line up with their chances, or if Legion might just take this week handedly. So let's go ahead and start. Yakub versus Radley. What do you think?
Um, so I think I would say maybe Radley 2-1. Um, I think Radley is pretty good. I think he's actually slightly better than Yakub. I do know that Yakub has been playing a lot lately, but I'll say 2-1 for Radley.
Okay. And then Father Erob, does that surprise you?
No, not really. I think Father is around a similar level as Erob, but Father's TVP is very, very solid. Um, he's one of those odd ducks who has his TVP as his best matchup and his TVZ as his worst matchup. It's usually the reverse for Terrans, right?
I don't know. It's very relatable for me. But yeah, I get you on that one. Okay, so this one kind of makes sense. It could have gone either way, but Father does have a specific skill set against Protoss. Now, Semi versus Killa Ace. This one is interesting because I completely agree with you early on saying Semi's a very, very strong player, right? He's kind of like a next level above. But I think this excuse me. I think the activity disparity, I'm wondering if you think that that's going to matter. Semi obviously very busy with non-StarCraft related real life stuff. Kill Ace been playing quite a bit. He's been very, very active and performing pretty well. So does that change your calculus at all, or what are you thinking on this one?
I wish I could be more dramatic and say Killes has a chance, but I unfortunately don't think he
Don't think so.
has
Okay, so Semi
any
takes
chance.
it. Do you think yeah, Hazareth is pointing out in the chat that Semi got like round of 16 BSL while being inactive. Does Killa have a chance of taking a map off?
No,
No. Okay, 2-0 Semi. Now Pandor Jedi. What do you think here?
I think Pandora Jedi one is going to be a 2-0 as well for Pandora.
Okay, so if we're looking already, we're at 7 map wins, counting from top to bottom, to 3. So 7-3, because
Hmm.
we got to keep the space or the timing of these scorings in mind. Because right now at the bottom it says 13-3, but the timing still might matter. Now already with the predictions, if Chaos won every single remaining map, they still would not have a chance of winning. That would only bring them to 8 map wins. So I just wanted to point that out so far on our predictions. Now, Firetip versus Tom.
Uh, I I think Tom is pretty like a strong high B rank. Firetip is about C rankish. I would say like 1600 ish. So I think Tom is going to decisively take that as well. 2-0 for Tom.
Alrighty. And then when it comes to Thrive versus Anderson, now this one, um, I'll cast it later. I'm going to go through and cast all these games next week. This was a pretty close game, I felt like. It was kind of cool. Do you think in this matchup, Anderson would generally have a chance against Thrive, or if you were to re-predict this over, would you put Thrive as a 1-0?
I would say I would predict Thrive as a 1-0. I think I might or like I think I might underestimate Anderson though. I knew he was involved in UPL and I thought he was pretty low level because of that, but I think you mentioned last week that he's actually about B rank, so maybe it's actually a closer matchup than I would have thought.
Yeah, UPL I think was initially branded as weaker players, but the vast majority it seems like is like high C, B. They're better than they let on. I
Mhm.
quickly learned. Okay, so Thrive Anderson 1-0, Manadong versus Strom Carlin. That was a 1-0 as well. Now, what about Shafiru versus JJ Sayre?
That's a hard one for me. I honestly have no idea how good JJ Sayre is.
Yeah, it's a little tough. Let's go ahead and check some historics, right? So Shafiro 2-0's Mutiler. That's actually something. JJ Sayre 0-2 versus Father. Okay, so we can kind of bracket that in a little bit. If we look up here, Shafiro 2-0's 9 or 9K. I don't think that that's telling in this situation. Vahens beats JJ Sayre 2-0 in week 1. JJ Sayre beats Gloomy, and Shafir didn't play in round 3 of the round robin. So I don't think that really helps us much. If we had to flip a
No.
coin here, who do we think?
Um, well, Hezroth in the chat is saying JJ Sayre is pretty solid B rank. If that's true, I would say JJ Sayre is the favorite. So I'd give that
All
one to
right.
JJ.
Going to JJ. Abji versus Quim. Abji took that one 1-0. Also a fun game to watch. I look forward to casting that one. Gabagoon versus Mutiler.
I would go in favor of Mutiler here because, judging by his name alone, he must be Zerg, right?
He is,
So
yeah.
Gabagoon is Protoss. Zerg beats Protoss. So there you go.
Uh, is he Protoss? I thought Gabo was Terran.
Oh, really?
I
Why
th-
is his name Goon then?
I don't know. I don't know. I might be completely wrong. I
Oh,
always feel like I'm like, yeah, that's what race they play, and then I'm completely off. But these two do face off in UPL a fair amount, and I do think Mutiler is probably stronger or favored in this matchup.
I guess Gabagoon is Terran after all. Wow, what a tease! What a misleading name.
Right? What a misleading name. Yeah, okay, yeah, Mutiler, you're saying it. Okay, I see you in chat. Mutiler, do you think you're favored against Gaba? Yeah, it'll be a good game. Very humble response. Probably this actually will be a good game, but I do think that Mutiler has the edge. Now, Neurasthenia versus Discovery. Neurasthenia took that one. Neurasthenia, she's one of those players that is garnering a lot of attention because relatively new in the community, relatively new on the scene, but improving very, very rapidly and doing very, very well, especially against Terran. I think there was probably the highest viewed match in server of like SCU history. There was like 30 people. I wish I had like I took a snapshot of it or something. Was between her and Rice Hat during the round robin where she ended up beating Rice Hat, and that was just a phenomenal series. And she does it again against another Terran facing off against Discovery. So earning Legion another map win on that one. Now, Indo versus GeForce Tesla. What are your thoughts on this one?
So Indo was on my CPL team last season. Um, he improved quite a bit, but I think GeForce Tesla is like pretty solid. I think he's like high C, low B ish ranked Protoss, and he's been around CPL for quite a while. Indo started out at like tier four, I believe, and ended at tier three. So I think he's still probably just a little bit worse than GeForce Tesla. I would give the game to GeForce.
I think that's a fair assessment from what I've seen. If that's the case with Indo, then he's definitely improved drastically. If that was just one
Yeah,
season, he's growing very, very fast in the game. But
yeah,
yeah,
I have to give him credit. He's very active and he is very good at taking advice from better players. That's a skill in and of itself. A
yeah.
lot of players don't really like getting advice or don't absorb it very well.
That's me, man. Like I get so much advice all the time, and I'm like, okay, 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 and it's just it's just gone. Like I'm an idiot. I can't listen. So what we have here with predictions is a 15-6 score disparity based on what has already occurred and what we're expecting to occur. Um, when we look at that, where's the winning match? And it looks like the winning match is early. It's the Thrive Anderson match. So we have
Mhm.
8, 9 coming out of best of three, and the first decider between Thrive and Anderson, we're predicting is going to be where the week ends, right? Like that's where the scores that are counted and
Mhm.
matter for the victory. So I would say that's a pretty decisive victory for Legion.
Yeah, definitely. Um, we're really seeing the disparity between the top two teams and the bottom two teams here. Um, I mean, looking at their top five lineup for their best of threes, I'm actually kind of scared for Savage a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk about next. And it might be a little bit tough. I'll see how I can do it. Maybe we don't just look at this blank sheet, but I did want to get a little bit of a look ahead, right, up against Savage. And maybe we can do a couple things. Maybe we can either, the full roster is going to probably be ugly, but maybe we could look at their previous time facing each other and kind of see what your thoughts are there. Like I guess first and foremost, we have the 5 best of 3 matches where the teams are incentivized to place their best players. And so with Savage being the number 1 seed, Legion's going to have to put their best player out first, and then Savage will counter and respond with the second player and so on. And so there is a little bit of an advantage there for Savage. Excuse me. Who do you think Legion is going to put out first on their team? And maybe the finals bracket might actually show us a little bit better. So this is who they put out first before. Do you think it's gonna be one of these players?
I think that I think that like Tom Yakub Father, one of those three would be a good choice because then we would have to decide like, are we going to roll the dice? Like they're all pretty high B, like low A players. So we would have to like, we probably wouldn't want to send out like Doodle against one of those guys, right? But then
Yeah.
if we send out a player that's a little worse, they could still lose to them. So I think that would be a good strategy for them to start with one of those three.
Okay, so not your top, but like your next rung down. Um,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. Now, I guess I'm recognizing that this line of questioning is probably not going to get us kind of the prediction I'm looking for, but like let's like fill it out a little bit. So like if we say Yakub, I guess I have to do this real quick. if we think Legion's going to win, like our predictions point out, and we say Yakub is their top pick, what is Savage thinking? Who would they probably throw out there?
I feel like if I was making the lineup and I had to pick someone against Yakub that isn't like kind of blowing our top talent immediately, I would probably pick like let's see here, maybe Static or Vahens against Yakub. I think they're like at a similar level, but maybe just slightly better. And I feel like they would be a pretty decent pick to beat him.
Gotcha. And then who would the next pick be? Is that going to be like a similar kind of strategy, you think, to putting like the Yakub out there as number one? Would you guys go for something maybe not like Doodle, but maybe another highly strong player?
Yeah, I feel like similar to what I was saying for Legion, it would make sense for us to do like two of our stronger players, but not like the strongest. So maybe like Vahens and Static first, and then wait and see who they pick next, so we can kind of like. I mean, Doodle is our best player, so we'll probably want to like wait and see and get just the right matchup for him. We don't want to be having him play like against someone who's too strong or too weak. Um, Rather, like if we could wait until Semi gets put out and put Doodle against
Hmm.
Semi, I feel like that would be a pretty good matchup for us because
So something like
Doodle is
Happening
much more
Paradise.
active. Doodle is like a similar level to Semi, but much more active. So even though it's PvP and anything could happen, I would put Doodle as the favorite for that matchup, for example.
Gotcha. And then they also have a Pandor, right? So like if we say Semi, like Doodle's the counter for Semi, who would be the counter for Pandor?
That's a hard one actually, because Pandora is just really solid
Would it be Ozzy?
TVP and TBT. Um, Honestly, I feel like Ozzy or maybe Vahens. Yeah, Pandora just hates TBT. So if we could get a Terran against it of any level, even if it's like Flash, I feel like it might be beneficial to us.
Yeah. I mean, hating it and being bad at it are two different things, though. So you gotta
It's
still.
both for him. It's both.
Okay,
It's his
so
worst matchup.
and I feel like that's kind of common. There's not a lot of Terran players that are just like, yeah, I freaking love TBT. Okay, so that might be a good one. Doodle Semi, got it. Then I think we start seeing the lineup start getting a little bit different. So like if we have like I'm just gonna throw out some of these other players. So we have Tom. Oh yeah, we've got Father as well, right? So maybe Father gets picked up here if we assume that the top five from the week before, are the top five that are picked on this week. And then this gives you guys the chance to like who do you think would be next in the top five for Savage? Would it be you? Would it be Flash? Am I
um,
missing someone?
so I'm thinking. I feel like Flash might be a good matchup because um, he's Terran, and I think he likes TVZ as well. So
Yeah.
I also think they're kind of a similar level. I think Flash is about like high B, um, and he's been pretty active lately, as far as I can tell too. I've beaten Tom before. I have to play him again for an SCU finals, but it's ZVZ,
Yeah.
so you know,
It's a coin flip at the best. Um,
yeah.
okay. I think this makes some good sense. Um, I'm trying to think here. I think this would be a Savage advantage in top five, which obviously matters a ton. And we're seeing that in this current week, right? With our predictions, a lot of these
Mhm.
decider matches are going to end up being not necessarily required or counted, as opposed to the two very, very even teams of Chaos and Unhinged, where it came down to the absolute wire. I think being able to secure these pairings that are advantageous is going to be absolutely huge for Savage. And they do have that number one seed advantage where whoever wins, and we're predicting Legion at this point, will have to put a player first. So they'll be able to kind of fashion this. Okay. Anything else you think might be an interesting factor to Savage versus a potential Legion?
I mean, it's volatile, right? Because of the snake draft. So we might not get these matches, of course. I think even if we did get these exact matches, it would still be pretty close. Like I feel like any of these could go either way, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think this is going to be a really, really close finals.
I hope so. I think it'll be really exciting and a lot of really fun games. And if we look historically, you know, in the round robin, you guys didn't do, or you guys did very well against Legion. We also saw a good number of 2-1 matches, which is nice, but not a lot, right? So only 3 of them occurred before. If we look at this, Pandora beat Vahans 2-1. Maybe we should have checked
Mhm.
this before we went to the other one, but Doodle was used against Semi before successfully. When we look at Yakub, we know Hazareth has beat Yakub.
Yeah,
So that's really strong and maybe an
that was actually
opportunity.
that was actually a surprise to me. No offense to Hazarath. Hazarath is really good, but I I didn't think he was quite as good as Yakub. So yeah, if we can get like static, for example, against Youtube, maybe YouTube's PvP just isn't super strong. So yeah.
Oh, you guys have Harry too. We didn't even discuss Harry, but he's another very strong player. Flash beat Tom 2-0 previously, so that might be an opportunity to pair them. And then these other ones didn't really come up. But yeah, I think this is going to be really interesting. And yeah, we already did pair them. Okay, so this I could believe would be probably the goal of Savage for these pair ups. I think the one thing that might change is if maybe Mick decides to try to gamble a little bit, or if
Mhm.
there's availability issues, right? Because we still haven't done the signups. We haven't seen like, uh-oh, is
Yeah.
this week is Doodle out on vacation in Hawaii or something? Like we just don't know. Um,
Yeah.
so hopefully that doesn't happen for you guys.
Yeah, I have no idea what people's availability is going to be like. We haven't really started discussing like possible signups yet. So who knows? Like yeah, Static or Vans could be MIA. Ozzy should play, but he did take a week off during the regular season, so who knows? Yeah,
Well, very cool. Very cool. I think that'll be interesting to see, and I'm really excited. And I'm even more excited to see if these predictions turn out the way we think they will, or if there's going to be some major upsets. And again, all of these will be casted next week. And I haven't talked to Ozzy about it, but Ozzy did offer to co-cast some of the casts I was doing of the previous matches.
hmm
And so I might reach out to him and see if he wants to cast some of these with me as well, so we get some
yeah,
perspectives.
yeah. I feel kind of bad because I did say I was going to cast a couple of matches myself, and I am planning still on doing that with Ozzy as well. Um,
Heck yeah.
just keep kind of having schedule issues.
It's so
Like,
hard. And you know what? On that point, this is a little bit of a tangent. And I know not a lot of people are watching live, but if you're one of these people that is having scheduling issues in the regular SCU brackets, please try to communicate a little bit more effectively. I don't know what it's been, but like the past 2 weeks, there have been so many communication, just like snafus and issues with people getting their uh, their matches scheduled, and it's becoming pretty frustrating and something that I don't want to have to deal with anymore. Mevius, to answer your question, this is yellow because this is to remind me that I am slow still needs to register and finish his challenge uh, registration so that I can count it in challenge. That's all it is. This is just an administrative marker for myself. Okay, very cool. Let's go ahead and let me check the notes. What do we got up next? So we talked the results from last week a little bit. We talked our predictions. We looked ahead, and we think that the Savage and Legion top five, how those get picked, and how those players practice and their availability is actually going to have a pretty big effect, I think, on the overall score and how that goes. And I'm really excited about it. I think now what I'd like to do is predict the maps for this upcoming week. And if there was a map that you wanted to see be used for all of the best of threes, which one would it be? Also knowing that Polypoids had its time and Attitude has had its time. It can happen again, right? They're not taken out of the pool. But what map would you think would be best for the best of three or worst?
oh, Okay, so I'm torn here between picking a map that I actually like and a map just to troll my friends. Um, I know Ozzy hates Jane Doe, so I would
Ugh,
like Jane Doe to be
it's the
the
correct
first
answer.
map.
Don't want
Yeah.
Jane Doe. Ugh, I hate that map so much.
If I was picking an actual balanced map, I would probably pick like Knockout or Polestar.
Okay,
Um, I think those are both very standard and pretty well liked.
I think so too.
I personally hate Octagon myself. I'm not enjoying that one.
I'm liking it. I'm liking trying to figure it out. I don't have any like weird issues with it, but yeah, to the Jane Doe point, that stupid Marine medic, man. Like, it's
Yeah.
so funny how just like that small little aspect of that map can just make me hate it so much. But anyway, let's go ahead and check on the maps. We have them all uploaded here in our loved marbles roulette. We're going to go ahead and shake them up. We're going to spew them out. And how it's going to get recorded is the number one map is going to be the best of three map. And then every other map is going to go down in order through the decider matches, and then that list will just repeat, right? Because obviously there's a total of 14 matches or maps that'll need to be used or something like that. No, there's 10. So one of them will need to be repeated. Regardless, we'll do it here in real time. So we're going to shuffle them up, and let's go ahead and see what comes out of the marbles. It looks like Neo Sylphid. Ooh, knockout. You might be getting, Neo Sylphid I wouldn't be mad about either.
Yeah, Neo Sylphid is well liked. It's pretty balanced. Oh man.
Oh,
Oh,
no, you can never trust the wheel. See Fighting Spirit getting in the way. It
please
still
no
might make
fighting
it. Oh,
spirit. Oh,
all right. So we're going to have Neo Sylphid as our best of three map. I'm not mad about
oh
that.
yes, yes.
I think that'll be good. Let's see what comes up next. So we already have Jane Doe, Polestar, Knockout. And what's important to realize is, some of these maps will get repeated, and Jane Doe is definitely going to be one of them that's repeated. So we're going to get to see more matches on that, and then finally Attitude. So let me go ahead and get that in our sheet, and everyone can just be a part of it. So we're going to have Neo Sylphid. If I can type in this stupid thing. Neo.
You turned out perfectly because Attitude and Polypoid were last.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Jane Doe. And then we've got Polestar. Knockout. Fighting Spirit. Octagon. Match Point. Polypoid. Attitude. Jane Doe. Cool. So that's what the maps are going to be. And you know what? Doing this, I think I screwed up on one of the weeks, and I think I forgot a map or something like that. But whatever. Anyway, so we're going to kick it off next week with the Savage versus either Legion or Chaos, whoever comes out ahead on that. And Neo Sylphid is going to be the predominantly played map. This is going to be the one that matters, three-player map. I don't think there's a race that's particularly favored. I do know with TVZ on this map, I hate playing TVZ on this map because of the natural in its mineral lines being so easily harassable by Mutalisks. Are there any other kind of like edge cases that you can think of potential imbalance when it comes to Neo Sylphid?
Um, I agree about the TVZ. It's so at the pro level, it's actually Terran favored. Most maps are Terran favored at the pro level, but um, ZVT, like 12 o'clock, for example, they did update the map, but 12 o'clock used to be real hell for Terran because it's so easy for mutas to fly around,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to cover all the parts of your base with turrets. Um, I think it's kind of hairy, but I feel like the players at this level should have like good enough turret placement, for example, that this won't be too much of an issue. So I would say it's pretty balanced even in ZVT. And I think it's quite balanced overall. So yeah, I don't think like map balance is going to make any difference in any of these matchups.
And you know what? It's not Jane Doe. And that's what matters most, I think, is that the best of three map was not Jane Doe.
I do feel kind of bad for whoever gets the best of one on Jane Doe.
Yeah, and there's two of them. So There'll be a couple people, and we'll have to see how that ends up shaking out. So very cool. So that'll be the maps for next week. So Savage already has a jump ahead in a sense, right? Because they can start planning for next week, whereas both of these teams they don't know if they're going to make it through, right? If Legion, leans heavily on our predictions or have similar predictions, maybe they can already start preparing as well on who they might want to have start practicing on these maps. And then lineups will likely be finished, no later than the end of Sunday, so that Monday the matches can kick off, just like we do every week. And then we will get into the off season, which is going to be exciting, I think. So, I keep losing my notes. I need like 4 monitors to do this. This is insane. Okay. So I did just want to throw out there a couple reminders for the off season and some of the work that's going on behind the scenes. I've already talked about a lot of it during previous weeks on 2COOL4SCUL, but I just wanted to kind of remind everyone. So captains right now are working on grandfathering in players on their teams to have contracts. Just a quick reminder, there's several types of contracts. You can either have a 4-season contract, 3-season contract, 2-season contract. And each team is limited to only having 5 players. Let me go ahead and bring us to the other room real quick so this Excel sheet's not distracting. So each team is limited to having 5 players that can have 4-season contracts and 5 players that can have 3-season contracts. Any number of 2-season contracts. So captains right now are trying to balance what players they want to have those contract spots. And part of the math that's going on is who they expect or want to also draft. Because when you draft, there's going to be an opportunity to pay a premium to increase the contract type from the standard 2 to either a 3 or a 4. Now, originally in the rules and what I mentioned before is that price would be around 25 SCU bucks. That seems really, really high. So that's going to be calibrated. So don't marry yourself to the 25 SCU bucks per additional season. That might get lowered as we're learning more about the economy in this league and how cash isn't as prevalent as we thought it would be. So there's that. Second action is that they're also gathering names of people that would like to resign, right? So if you're a player on a team and you want to resign your team and re-enter the free agent pool, then you need to let your captain know so that they can add you to that list. Upon resignation, you go into the free agent pool, and whatever team picks you up again, you will have a 2-week cooldown where you cannot be used because you resigned your previous team. It's kind of just a resignation penalty. The reason for that is we want to prevent large groups of people quitting one team to try to game the system and all be together, right? So that we have like an overpowered team or a team that's just all buddies. We want to keep it as fair as possible and let the system do the work on team mobility. But it's still an option, allows players some agency in how they're managed. The next thing is trades. So trades are still being discussed. That has all been published in the base manual on how it will occur, and that will happen after resignations, after contracts are stated. But I do think, I don't know if I mentioned, but when it comes to the contracts, when you get traded, you are still traded with the same contract that you had, and it refreshes when you get to your next team. So that was just one piece of information I'm not sure I was super clear on the last time that I just wanted to mention. So then there will be trades. The sign up window will occur. We'll probably start the sign up window maybe mid next week. I want to give plenty of time, 1 week, 2 weeks, for players to get excited about it, get their friends, get them all into the free agency, and we also know what we're working with. And that's one, so we can understand how to structure season 2. Season 2 is still going to be the 2 teams at a time, kind of round robin system that's already been discussed, with a bracket finals as opposed to a ladder gauntlet finals. But the number of slots that we have for those round robins is going to largely be dictated by how many players are on each team, right? One of the big complaints from this season was the rosters weren't exercised deep enough, right? There was a lot of players that never had the opportunity to play, and I think that we can get around that and include more players without hitting a point where there's not enough available. So we'll be doing that as well, but that needs to be adjusted based on participation. An additional thing that needs to maybe be adjusted, and this is going to be kind of discussed behind the scenes, is the sacrificial lamb problem. So I've been very against any type of tier system for players so that we're not having multiple mini leagues going on at the same time, right? We don't want to have like the tier 1 portion and the tier 2 portion and the tier 3 portion. That's not really what this league is about, but I think that seeing the weighting of the matches has had a very positive effect on the roster lineups every week in this finals bracket. So what I might do is instead of having, best of threes and best of ones, we may just have the top few matches, several matches, maybe 3, 5, depends on participation and strength of the teams, but we may just have the winner gets +1 score, right? Or something along those lines. The winner of that series gets +1 score so that there's weighted matches where you're incentivized to put your stronger players. And then this will
Hmm.
allow the rosters to go deeper without huge like sacrificial lambs, where you have your doodles and your wolfixes playing players that really don't stand a chance. So those are all kind of the things going on in the background. There'll be an announcement. We got to get all this tidied up. A lot of information to come out and get published, and so we'll be hitting that heavy. Any questions that generates from you, Keen? What are your thoughts on these things?
No, I think I like the idea of having a few matches that generate more points. I think that's a good solution. I'd never thought of that. I was thinking maybe just doing the same best of three, best of one format would kind of work out, but yeah, I like that a lot.
And it probably would. The problem I have with it is that I don't. And this is a personal thing. I don't like best of ones, right? There's a lot of pressure, obviously, but I like having players have an opportunity to prepare for a series. I think there's a difference between preparing for a best of one and preparing for a best of three, where you have map choices, right? So like that was the big difference that we saw mostly in like the round robin is you had your initial map and then the loser gets to pick. So you can have a game plan for okay, if I lose, I'm going to pick Jane Doe next, but I'm going to be preparing all week this Jane Doe strategy for in the event I ever lose a map and I can come back for my team and get at least one map win, maybe take the series. And I think that that's really important. And so I think some sort of weighting on just like a +1 metric, I don't think it's overly snowbally, but it's important enough and it's impactful enough where you definitely not waste a player that you expect to lose against a much stronger player.
Yeah, I agree with you about the best of ones. It is a little lame. I mean, it's fun because you can prepare like crazy cheeses and stuff, and so it generate some pretty interesting games in that regard. But I think it's also nice for players, especially ones who might not have as much tournament experience, to have that like being able to prepare and think through like an entire best of series.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so much more fun and like involved, right? So anyway, that's kind of the behind the scenes, what we're thinking about, what your captains may be asking about. I know some teams have had some announcements regarding like, hey, are you going to resign? What's the deal? One thing I kind of forgot to touch on was there's also players that have been just inactive or have like left the Discord server. The how we're going to be working through that is we are going to annotate those players as a 1 season contract. So when the contracts come out and everyone sees right their contracts and their team's contracts and who has what, there may be a number of players on a team that have a 1 season contract, and this is to prevent a precedent of a team dropping players. That's not something that I want in this. I don't want the feel bads associated with potentially getting fired, right? Like that's not really what this is about. And so having the 1 season contract for an inactive player means that they sit on your roster, and as the next season concludes, then they naturally fall off. And if they're truly inactive or if they've left the server or whatever the case is, then that's that, right? They don't re-enter the free agent pool and there's no issue. The problem with if we drop players, in addition to the feel bads, is it can create a loophole. So if you get dropped, can you just join the free agent pool again And then if you don't get the team you want, just be inactive. Should there be a penalty? It adds a couple layers of complexity where the system can be gamed a little bit more. And I don't like that. So we're just going to give them 1 season contracts for this initial time because everyone's getting grandfathered in. And then if those expire, they re-enter and everything's the same as usual. So that's how we're going to be dealing with inactive players. The second piece of inactive players is players that are marked as 1 season players are not going to count negatively towards prestige. And prestige is something that I think will be discussed and calibrated as we keep going forward because that's the one thing that a team carries forever is their prestige count. Um, and so right now we have a lot of prestige associated with did everyone play? How many players played? You get prestige for wins, things along those lines. Those players that are inactive aren't going to count negatively. So no concerns there. That's why we're giving them a separate tag, and so we know who they are. On the topic of prestige as well, that's going to be calibrated for next season. Prestige is going to need a much higher cap than 25 for rebates, right? So if you're unaware or not tracking the prestige system, teams are earning prestige through wins and everything I just mentioned. And then at the end of the season, they're paid 5 SCU bucks per prestige that they have, up to a cap of, I forget, it was like 120 or 225 or something like that. And so that's not very much money. And everyone seems to be maxing it out or getting very, very close. And so what I'm going to try to do is next season, we're going to increase that prestige amount so that it's much more likely that not everyone maxes it out and that they can earn more for their team for upcoming drafts. So more to follow on that as well. There's a lot of information, a lot of work that needs to actually go into season 2 and beyond, but we're getting closer and closer to a really great system. So that's that. Any questions from my monologue there, Keen?
No, sounds good to me. Yeah, I think I was, as you were talking about the inactive players, I was looking at my team Discord, and there are a couple names that really haven't participated at all or played at all. And honestly, like no offense to them, but they're mostly like lower level players. So I don't really think anyone's going to be like trying to game the system or anything in the way that you said. But I
Yeah.
mean, you could always implement like a two strike rule or something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think part of the problem, right? Like if that's the case, and if that's the same case across all the teams, that it's the lower level players that have been inactive, uh, maybe the problem is the system, right? Like for example,
True.
if I was on a team, no one would ever field me, right? And I would likely probably not sign up very much because I know that I would never get fielded and thus I would go do something else, right? And so it may not be a lack of interest, it may just be a lack of additional slots where players of my skill level or caliber could potentially contribute to the team. And so
Right.
that's why we're kind of tagging them. In the event an active player becomes active again, they'll revert to a normal 2 contract player and carry on as if they weren't inactive because there is a chance that it is the system that wasn't supportive for their skill level, so they were inactive.
Yeah. I think I agree. I agree that it's easy for players to get alienated in that way, but I think it's also it's like these um, like two of the players that I'm looking at. Like I haven't seen them chat even once
Mm,
in the team server. I don't think I ever saw them sign up. I've never seen them playing with anyone else. I don't think they've contributed anything in terms of like SCU bucks from being active in SCU tourneys. Like I feel like there's many ways to show your activity or
yeah,
like that you want to be a part of the team. And even if you are lower level, I think if you're like super involved with the team, you could probably even like work with your team leader and try to figure out like maybe a matchup that you could play and be effective in. I think it just requires participation.
yeah, that's a great take as well. So that's how we're going to be dealing with that. And then our last topic of the night, we got about 5 minutes left from an hour, and I do want to keep it to it. Um, Memnon has volunteered to be the next captain of Unhinged. So what that means logistically. So Least is stepping down from his captaincy, as we know, a captain does not have a contract limit, right? So Least is going to step down, and he will receive a 2 contract limit, or I guess in the grandfathering we can work with whatever contract in this particular case Least will end up with. Memnon will be the captain for season 2 up until the end of their season, which, if predictions go the way it's looking, might be this week. Least and Memnon will both have a captain role. So if you're seeing, oh, we have 5 captains, there's no speculation. We're not adding a 5th team or anything at this point. That just means that they're both kind of in the role at the same moment until Least is officially no longer a part of the captaincy, right? So at the end of the season, that will all be cleaned up when we go through and we clean up all the sheets and we add everything for season 2. But for now, Memnon is the guy calling the shots. He's the one doing the lineups. He's already doing the announcements, trying to get all the off-season stuff squared away. So congratulations to him. And I also know that he was one of the names I was thinking might end up being the captain. It was either Memnon or Nevane, and it ended up being Memnon. Um, but I'm also glad to see that they didn't try to do a trick or anything along those lines of finding like their absolute best player to kind of game the contract system. So I was happy to see that, and I'm very happy for Memnon to be stepping up, and he seems to be enjoying it as well so far. And I think Memnon was a part of the test league as well. So he's also, just been contributing to this league quite a bit. And Least did a great job. And then congratulations to him for his baby, which is I think one of the contributing factors for time and stepping down from the captaincy. So there's that. Any surprises from your part on Memnon stepping up as the Chaos captain, or I'm sorry, Unhinged captain?
No, I like we discussed last week. It sounded like Navane was really into the analysis stuff, but like I said, I think Memnon is going to be a good pick because he's also pretty involved with UPL as far as I know, and so I think he has probably a pretty good handle on player skill levels.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take for sure. And I also want to give a shout out to Nevane. Um, During like the forfeits and some of the lessons learned and stuff that Unhinged had to undergo against Chaos, Nevane was the forerunning, like, you know what it felt like from my standpoint is being an umpire in like a baseball game and calling it out as I see it. Nevane's the coach that comes up and just screams at you. And I say that with all the love in the world because this is a guy that gives a shit, right? He's like, "No, let's look at it this way. What do you mean? It was 28 minutes, blah 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 blah." Like going through all the details, and I just want to thank Nevane for that level of passion and that level of um, seeking accountability from the system and myself trying to adjudicate this. I really do appreciate the feedback, and I love debating these things because it makes the entire system better. Like, you pointed out something that I referenced from my mind as part of the rules that was not annotated in the rules, and I was like, well, shit, you're right. It's not on paper, right? Like, I will adjust that moving forward, but that's definitely a lesson learned, and it was kind of a unfortunate event that Unhinged had to deal with some of the conflict, but overall it makes the league better, and I really appreciate his input and everything he's doing and his care for the team. So I think in Memnon and Nevane's hands, I think that team is gonna have a really strong showing in season 2 for sure.
Also, I just want to apologize if I mispronounce your name, Naveen. I don't know
Hey,
if
I think everyone calls him
Navane.
Nirvana except me. I just call him Navane because that's how I read
Okay.
it, and I'm never gonna change. It feels better rolling off my tongue. I don't even know who's right. Navane, if you're here, if you listen to this, let us know. What the heck do we call you? Um, Very cool. Any other closing thoughts before we seal the deal on this?
No, I'm good. I'm looking forward to next week. It's going to be a really cool finals. I'm looking
Dude,
forward to it.
next week's gonna be so much fun, and I do hope, Ozzy, that we get a chance to cast together. I'll reach out to you and see if we can find a time to probably do it in 2 chunks, probably the best of threes and then the best of ones. Did that last week; it didn't feel too bad. Was able to knock it out, and I've already, unfortunately, I try not to do this, but I cannot help myself. I try not to watch all the games so that I can cast them without bias during the matches. But I've watched a lot of these, and hopefully that doesn't come out. Luckily, I have the memory of a goldfish, so I'll probably forget all the cool moments And so just knowing the result isn't going to change it too much. But I'm really excited to cast these matches. You guys should definitely tune in because they are some bangers. And then I'm extremely excited for whoever Savage goes up against, and I'm curious to see if our lineup predictions work out. As always, I don't, I think we did pretty good on the predictions in week 1. I'm curious about our predictions in week 2, and especially in week 3, since you'll have some skin in the game on that one.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
I'm assuming I'm going to be in the lineup too. So yeah.
Yeah, I would assume so. And we'll be rooting for you. Very cool. I'm gonna go ahead and send you guys over to UPL. So IJ is streaming the IPL, not IPL, UPL, the Uncoachable Pupil League. Every week they do a UPL kind of pro league style match, and right now it looks like, who do we have playing? We've got Fridge versus Vile. So looking forward to a good game. And right now it looks like Team Refrigerator is up 4-1. So say hi to the UPL guys, show them some love, and thanks for watching. Bye.
Sweet.